Tonight on CBC Vancouver News. 5 Mounties charged in the death of an Indigenous man in Prince George. Plus, at least 3 BC homes listed for sale without the owner's knowledge.
All of us can relate to what a devastating thing it would be.
While the crime is rare, the warnings are strong. And already, BC's new drug policy is making headlines around the world.
I think it'll be watched with interest.
Why some are calling it a flawed Canadian experiment.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Anita Bathe. We begin tonight with breaking news. 5 RCMP officers have been charged in connection with the death of an Indigenous man in Prince George. CBC national reporter Renee Filipponi joins us with the details. Renee, what more do we know?
Well, Dale Culver died back in the summer of 2017. That's more than 5 years ago. An investigation by the police watchdog said the RCMP received a call about a man casing vehicles. Now, when they approached Culver, he tried to flee on a bicycle, but there was a struggle. Pepper spray was used, and Culver was placed in the back of the police car. Soon after, he had trouble breathing. Paramedics were called, and he was taken to hospital, but died that night. There are also some reports of the officers there. They were telling witnesses to delete footage taken of the arrest. Now, that watchdog report, released in 2020, recommended then that Crown look at laying charges against the 5 officers. Now, the 35-year-old father of 3 was a member of the Wet'suwet'en and Gitxsan First Nations. His family are welcoming the charges, and advocates are calling it vindication.
Also devastating because it validates that Dale Culver should still be alive with his family and his friends and with us. And nobody should have to miss him today.
The 2 officers charged with manslaughter are Constable Paul Saint-Marie and Constable Jean-Francois Monet. 3 others have been charged with obstruction of justice. Now, RCMP say all but 1 are, quote, remain operational. The officer, that one, is on administrative leave for unrelated reasons. His death led to allegations about anti-Indigenous racism within police and really became a focal point during the 2020 George Floyd riots. Now, the first court appearance for these officers is March 14th.
Renee Filipponi reporting for us tonight. Thank you. The jury in the coroner's inquest into the suicide of Vancouver Police Constable Nicole Chan is making a dozen recommendations on how to prevent similar deaths in the future. The inquest heard about Chan's history of mental health struggles and that she had been intimately involved with 2 superior VPD officers. Karen Larson is live tonight with more on this. Karen, what did the jury say?
Well, Anita, the jury came back with 12 recommendations, including that there should be better communication between physicians in the community that attend to a patient like Chan, also the police officers that brought her to hospital and the paramedics, and the attending psychiatrist at hospitals where patients taken in under the Mental Health Act are brought to. Some of the other recommendations include a better respect in the workplace training within the VPD and training specific to human resources duties for officers who are moved into the VPD Human Resources section. This is important because we heard during the coroner's inquest that Chan was in a relationship with a superior Sergeant David Van Patten, who was in the Human Resources section. She claimed that he had sexually assaulted and extorted her, and she made a complaint within the force. This was part of the frustration that she had professed in the weeks leading up to her suicide, that she thought that, men that she had been involved within this VPD, and her complaints against this one in particular were taking so long to solve, and she had lost her career. She was off work at that point, and these people continued to work. So we heard after the coroner's jury brought back their recommendations from Nicole Chan's sister, Jen Chan. Here's what she had to say.
She would be very happy that she's finally listened to, and that everyone else has listened and also feel the same way in respect to the fact that things did need to be changed, and we're very satisfied in the fact that, other people also think so.
We heard that in her last moments at the hospital that she really just felt like nobody was listening to her. And I think that collectively we as a community have all listened to Nicole. We've heard her voice, and I think she's got to be satisfied with that.
And Anita, the inquest into Nicole Chan's death lasted for 7 days, and testimony was heard across those days from over 30 witnesses.
What happens next in this story, Karen?
Well, we'll see if these recommendations are taken up by the various authorities that they were made to. And also, the family has filed a civil suit naming the Vancouver Police Department, the Vancouver Police Board, the Vancouver Police Union, Van Patten, amongst others, as defendants. So we'll have to see where that goes as well.
Karen Larson reporting live for us tonight. Thank you. Well, a new CBC investigation has revealed a slew of house title fraud cases here in BC. This comes after we found a surge in Ontario. It's basically homes listed and sold by fraudsters posing as owners. As Michelle Gassoub reports, this type of fraud may be on the rise as fake IDs become more sophisticated.
It's every homeowner's worst nightmare, finding out your home has been listed and sold without your knowledge. Court documents reveal it's happened at least twice in BC since 2019. 2 homes in Richmond allegedly sold while the true owners were abroad, and a third attempt thwarted before the transaction could go through. The fraud centers around fake IDs. Fraudsters obtain ID with the true owner's name, which they use to impersonate the home owners. They then list the home for sale or use it to take out a mortgage, then take off with the cash. This kind of fraud, while alarming, isn't new.
The person was saying, "I am Bob," but the call display said Peter. And that was the very first thing that got me going.
Ron Usher helped stop a similar series of crimes in Vancouver in 2008 after 5 homes were fraudulently sold. He noticed several red flags in a transaction and phoned police. Red flags, he says, can be easy to overlook.
When things are suspicious, people don't seem to know about a property. They don't really have any real knowledge of it. They have brand new documentation.
In a statement, the Land Title and Survey Authority of British Columbia says cases like these are rare, and there are up to 1 million legitimate real estate transactions in BC each year. But in Ontario, the problem is surging. A CBC investigation revealed at least 30 Toronto homes have been mortgaged or sold by fraudsters, in part thanks to increasingly sophisticated fake IDs.
It's an arms race. I think everybody in the game has been trying to up their standards. And so what we don't know about the ones in Ontario is, okay, where did it go wrong?
Usher says everyone involved in a real estate transaction, from lawyers to real estate agents, needs better training on how to verify identification.
Everybody's got stars in their eyes about real estate. Everybody's got something they're getting out of it. And those things can always blind you to red flags.
In both cases in Richmond, forged passports were allegedly used to convince real estate agents and lawyers that the homeowners wanted to sell their homes. RCMP have now made 2 arrests, and those cases are now before the courts. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
BC is just 2 days into its new decriminalization policy, and researchers are already eagerly awaiting data on how it might affect users' health and well-being. Public health experts say it will likely be months, if not years, before any noticeable trends emerge. Our John Hernandez reports on why the policy is being called an exciting yet flawed Canadian experiment.
It's probably one of the hardest things that I've ever had to overcome, which is the criminal justice system.
Guy Felicella knows the debilitating toll the constant run-ins with the law can take on your mental health.
It's relentless and ruthless, and it's never ending, and it puts a target on your back for the rest of your life.
The former drug user turned peer advisor says possession charges led to years of incarceration and shame. He hopes decriminalization will mark an end to a vicious cycle.
Take it from a guy and others that have gone through the prison system many times for just carrying small amounts of substances. To have that not happen, it can really shape you to reach out a lot sooner for support.
Most health experts will agree BC's decriminalization policy has its shortcomings. The threshold is considered too low by many, and it doesn't address the flood of toxic drugs on the street. But there is hope it could indirectly prevent deaths by reducing stigma.
It's a very exciting time because it's an experiment that in Canada we've never done before.
This researcher plans to study how the policy will affect health and social and economic well-being. She says look no further than Portugal, which instituted sweeping decriminalization laws in 2000.
And went from a country that had the highest level of overdose in Europe to a country that had among the lowest. And so we do know that there is potential for real material change that can result from this.
Portugal's program was accompanied by an influx of treatment options. BC's former provincial health officer hopes that will happen here too.
You need to have the whole continuum from harm reduction to safer supply.
Until then, eyes will be on the limited data that rolls in over the coming months to see if decriminalization has any noticeable effect on the alarming number of fatal overdoses.
We'll probably have to wait at least a year to see some of the interim results come out, but I think it'll be watched with interest.
Interest that's been generated from across the world. The policy a symbolic step forward to solving a much larger puzzle. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
The leader of Canada's Conservative Party, meanwhile, came out against BC's decriminalization today. Pierre Poilievre is promising that if elected Prime Minister, he would replace decriminalization with recovery and treatment solutions.
It has been a disaster, an absolute abject failure. The NDP approach is on open display in Vancouver. It is a complete disaster. It is hell on earth.
Staying on the topic of healthcare, family doctors in BC will now be paid more for the time they actually spend with and on patients. The province's new payment scheme is now up and running, and the change is the first in decades. Dan Burrett is live tonight with more on this. Dan, family doctors were originally paid a flat rate per patient. So what's the difference now?
More compensation for their time, Anita. The fee-for-service system meant MDs are paid about $30 per patient, whether they need a quick checkup or have a complicated health problem. Family MDs say they would spend hours a day unpaid doing paperwork and reviewing lab results on top of the costs of running a private practice. Now they'll be paid for that extra time with patients and the admin work. The hope is they will then accept more patients. The average family physician in BC will see a raise from about $250,000 a year to $385,000. Officials say plenty of doctors are on board.
We know that over 1,000 physicians have signed up already, and we've heard anecdotes of physicians who are wrestling with, well, I have about 250 people currently that are unattached. Can I attach them this week? Can I get them the care that they need?
About 1 million people in BC are estimated to not have a family doctor, and that shortage has put a big strain on urgent care centres and emergency rooms.
On that, Dan, how long will it actually be before more of those people can get a family physician?
Well, about 3,000 more family doctors are eligible to sign up for this new payment plan. Health Minister Adrian Dix says he expects many more will do so in the weeks ahead. At least one family doctor tells us they anticipate more colleagues will take on more patients in the next 6 months, if not earlier.
I know a physician who worked in walk-in in the hybrid walk-in family practice that I helped direct. He's actually moving to a full family practice as of this month, as of when the new payment model started. And I've heard other physicians as well saying, I'm going to scale back on walk-in or other kinds of focused care and focus more on longitudinal family practice.
Now, for their part, the BC Greens say the new payment plan is a good first step, but they're urging the government to set up community health centres across the province. Anita.
Dan Burrett live for us tonight. Thanks, Dan. Also at that press conference today with Minister Adrian Dix, he was asked about one of the newest members to the province's public health leadership team. Alberta's former Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Dina Hinshaw, will temporarily jump into the role of BC's Deputy Provincial Health Officer. She is on a 6-month contract. Hinshaw was the face of Alberta's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, but faced criticism from Premier Danielle Smith and was fired from the office in November. Dix was asked about those controversies and the BC government's decision to hire her.
I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to hire an outstanding public health doctor like Dr. Hinshaw. We're very lucky to have her. I'm very proud we did it. It's not a free agent signing, but she was available.
Along with Hinshaw, Dr. Andrew Larder has also been hired to join BC's team. He has signed on for a temporary assignment for several months. He was a medical health officer at both Fraser Health and Interior Health. And Premier David Eby is in Ottawa to discuss more health care and public safety with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Mira Baines has more on what they covered.
Premier David Eby appeared optimistic as he stood with his 6 cabinet ministers ahead of a meeting with the Prime Minister. He clearly laid out issues that BC has been grappling with, including public safety, healthcare, housing, affordability, and climate change. This is the first official meeting that Eby has had with the Prime Minister. It occurs just days before provincial premiers are set to sit down with the Prime Minister to discuss healthcare funding. With a shortage of healthcare workers and a strain on funds post-pandemic, provinces are looking for more money. The premiers want Ottawa to cover 35% of healthcare costs, up from the current 22%. Eby explained what to expect next week.
The structure of the meeting is that the Prime Minister is going to present his proposal to premiers, and premiers will have an opportunity to discuss it. But that any deal will be down the road and will not be at that particular meeting.
Another issue at the forefront of the meetings has been public safety and bail reforms to deal with repeat violent offenders. Today, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre promised to undo the federal Liberals' bail policy. Eby says he believes progress is being made.
The need to address that through the criminal code reforms that are needed. That specific issue front of mind, but also the underlying issues, the issues of addressing mental health and addiction through the healthcare system as well, and intervening around those issues with mental health and addiction responses.
On Thursday, Premier Eby will be meeting with Ontario Premier Doug Ford and U.S. Ambassador David Cohen to talk about U.S.-Canada relations. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, former Canucks captain Bo Horvat has bid farewell to his Vancouver team and the people here. The fan favorite was traded to the New York Islanders. In exchange, the Canucks gained forwards Atu Ratti and Anthony Beauvillier, plus a 2023 first-round draft pick. On a note posted on his Instagram page, Horvat wrote, "I had the privilege of learning from and playing with so many amazing teammates. We all benefited from great coaches, trainers, and members of the organization. Many of these people are behind the scenes, and they put so much into making every Canucks game the best experience possible for everyone. Thank you all." Well, police are looking into an anti-gay rant in downtown Vancouver that saw 2 men as the target.
Oh my God. I don't want this in my country. Get off my face. Don't talk to him. Do you understand me? Don't you talk?
On Saturday night, Jamie Pine and his boyfriend Reg Arcervo were followed by a stranger on transit. The man began spewing homophobic and racial slurs at the couple. The two say they were chased by the man from Burrard SkyTrain station and accosted by the suspect in the street. Video of the confrontation has attracted thousands of views on social media. Premier David Eby commented on the incident. He says, "Jamie, I'm sorry this happened to you and your boyfriend. This is disgusting behavior. If 2 people in love make someone angry, they're not the problem. They're the problem, not you, rather. We must always stand up against racism, homophobia, and all other forms of hate." Well, Metro Vancouver staff say Wreck Beach's ballooning popularity over the last few years has led to an increase in emergencies and public safety incidents. More than 830,000 people visited Wreck Beach last year, a jump of 44% compared to just 5 years ago. Metro Vancouver staff say in that time, they have dealt with a growing number of incidents, including wildfires, overdoses, and conflict between visitors. Well, Well, I can't imagine too many people are at Wreck Beach tonight, Kuljeet, or in the next few days even.
Yes, absolutely. We had a lot of cold, dry, snowy weather that is now switching into lots of rain. It has gotten back to seasonal temperatures. Humidity is back up, but we do have a few systems moving through, not just for the Lower Mainland, but across the province. By Thursday morning, we've got a system bringing a lot of snow into the Cariboo region. Prince George could see up to 40 centimeters of snow starting tonight into tomorrow morning. And then for us, we're going to start to see this the rain starting by around Friday morning for your morning commute. Lots of rain coming through there. Starts Friday, stays with us for the weekend, and then mostly into next week as well. So lots of that coming in. 30 millimeters on Friday, another 30 on the weekend. More at higher elevations, of course, and current temperatures outside. Like I said, we're sitting at seasonal temperatures right now. 5 degrees at the airport and 4 in Pitt Meadows. Overnight tonight, temperatures dropping down to 1. Sunrise tomorrow at 7:42 a.m. And then a little bit of sun for tomorrow before we start to see some rain coming in till about noontime. We're going to see a 60% chance of rain. I'll let you know what the 7-day forecast looks like coming up. Anita?
Sounds good. Talk to you soon, Kuljeet.
Yeah.
Well, Ticketmaster is facing more blowback, this time from people right here in British Columbia. Some Coldplay fans are furious. They've had to pay hundreds of dollars to see the band in Vancouver this fall when tickets are so much cheaper down in Seattle. Yasmin Renea explains experts blame the difference on a complex equation for calculating ticket costs.
Coldplay will perform twice in September at BC Place. All tickets in the triple digits on Ticketmaster. Some seats close to the stage will cost you about $800, including taxes and fees.
That's so expensive. No, I'm too cheap.
I don't think I'm going.
We don't go to concert because of that anymore. We go to a hockey game.
But some tickets for Coldplay's concert in Seattle on September 20 are less than half that price. And upper-level seats are roughly $74 US. Experts say different production costs and venue sizes could play a role. And promoters could be raising the price because Vancouver is the only Canadian tour stop.
Well, they feel that people might be traveling from other parts in Canada in order to go to the shows in Vancouver, and the people that can afford to travel, therefore can afford to pay high ticket prices.
But experts also blame high prices on Ticketmaster's dynamic pricing policy. Many Coldplay tickets are labeled official platinum seats, but they're not in a prime spot, as the name suggests. Ticketmaster's pricing policy shifts the price up and down based on demand.
It would be great if artists had more power to ask Ticketmaster to turn off that practice.
Ticketmaster did not respond to CBC News' request for comment, but the company defends its dynamic pricing model. Its website claims it gives fans fair and safe access to the best tickets while enabling artists to price tickets closer to their true market value. Meaning fans here will have to start saving up, some more than others.
I bet I only have $75 in my bank account.
Yasmin Ghaneya, CBC News, Vancouver.
Years of waiting and promises, but there's still no school in Vancouver's Olympic Village. The CBC's Justin McElroy goes looking for answers in this week's Metro Matters, coming up. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream tonight. In Quebec, a furry four-legged friend is making a big impact on first responders. One fire brigade hopes the puppy will help members through stressful calls. Ganesia Deer went to meet her.
You want to go outside? She's only 15 weeks old, and she's been on the job for 3 of those, but she already runs this place.
Petting her just takes away that stress level. And you can see her atmosphere and her presence just changes everyone's mood.
This Portuguese water dog has an important job with the Kahnawake Fire Brigade.
Hey.
She's there for mental health support for the members who provide fire and ambulance services to the community. Statistically, they're at greater risk of experiencing mental health issues, which is why they named her Onunkwa, or medicine, in Ganyakeha.
Her ability to sense that somebody is going to need some comforting is definitely developing already, because when you come in, she goes to you, she greets you, and gives you that opportunity to just like, you know what, there's nothing else going on but this puppy at this moment.
In a tight-knit community, being a first responder has its own unique challenges.
Every time we hear the pager go off, it could be for our family. We don't know where we're going. Like myself, I've treated my parents and my grandparents on multiple occasions. It's something that we know that's the reality of our job, and that's kind of why I'm doing this job. I want to do it because I want to take care of my family and my friends and my community.
So for Phillips, having a puppy around helps after tough calls and long days.
Any other work atmosphere in an office setting, you don't just have dogs running around, so it's just such a different feeling, and it's just so comforting and nice to have her.
But it also comes with new, unexpected duties.
I think she has to poop now.
Gonna see you, dear.
No, come here.
CBC News, Kahnawake.
It's the beginning of a month where hundreds of parents in Vancouver will get an email telling them their child will be on a wait list to get into the school closest to them. It's the kindergarten lottery, and it's caused frustration in Vancouver for nearly a decade. As Justin McElroy reports, there likely won't be a fix anytime soon.
Olympic Village. It's a neighborhood with bike lanes, giant birds, and 3 restaurants that are sort of the same. But what it doesn't have is a school.
There's a number of families who live here, and we choose to live here because we can live without a car.
That was an interview we did in 2019 with Lisa McAllister. With no school in Olympic Village, she applied for her child to be in the next closest one, a 25-minute walk away at Simon Fraser Elementary. But she was 50th on the wait list, so they do homeschooling. The year after the interview, we had a provincial election, which meant it was time for political promises.
She's from the community. She's going to get a school built.
This means a new school right here in Olympic Village.
The NDP and their candidate for the area promised a new school for Olympic Village in 2020 if they won, and they did win. So what's happened in the 900 days since? The answer, bluntly, is not much. This is the statement by the province when we asked 2 months ago. 13 years after the Olympic Village was built, there's no timeline for approval or funding or shovels in the ground for an actual school. But the problem isn't just no school at Olympic Village. Here is a map. It shows every English-speaking elementary school in Vancouver. And here are the schools where there was a wait list to get into kindergarten last year. In total, 289 students were on a wait list, most of them right in the middle of the city. Many had to go to schools outside of catchment areas, sometimes several schools away. And the school board knows it's a problem.
We completely acknowledge how stressful it is, particularly if you live in a community where we have increased enrollment and we have issues with capacity at the school.
Now, a new school is coming in Cole Harbour, and that will help things. But when asked why it's had to be this way for so long, it's a less satisfying answer.
The planning involves the Vancouver School District. The planning involves the City of Vancouver, which is making the decisions around development. And then the planning also involves the ministry.
In other words, no one has full responsibility, no one has full funding control, nobody wants to take the blame, and so here we are. We mentioned this now because this month, hundreds of parents right in the center of BC's biggest city will get a letter from the school board telling them whether their child gets into the kindergarten of their choice or is on a wait list. It may be a first world problem, but it's still worth noting that if this story was a child, by now it would be in grade 3. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Vancouver.
And Vancouver City Council has unanimously approved a $110,000 grant for the SRO Collaborative. The funding will go toward a pilot program aimed at creating fire safety plans and identifying fire risks.
Tenants are afraid. The 2 deaths at the Winters Hotel last April really scared tenants and the community, and we all want to be involved in a proactive way.
220 single-room occupancy fires were recorded last year. That's double the number of fires in 2018. City staff says SROs are a high fire risk because of old and possibly overloaded electrical systems and outdated sprinkler and alarm systems. Pedersen says the best way to make residents safe is to build newer, safer housing, a solution she says that is far from becoming a reality. City Council also voted unanimously to develop a new vision for the Granville Street Entertainment District. The revitalization plan will focus on economic and cultural stimulus through increased entertainment, live performances, restaurant, and new public spaces, as well as speeding up the development of new hotels. City staff will be working on a plan to address gender-based safety on the Strip. The planning program is expected to last 18 months. But what will it take to actually make Granville Street a world-class attraction? Well, for insight, I'm joined live tonight by Andy Yan, who is director of SFU's city program. Andy, is it really as simple as making the Strip more pedestrian-focused?
Unfortunately, I don't think so. I think that there's actually a number of rather complicating factors that I think that this program that has been just launched, and it is important to note that it is going to be an 18-month study that will be engaged towards, I think, the revitalization of Granville Street.
Where around the world has a revitalization like this worked before?
Well, I think that part of the report, I think they had been talking about, looking at places like Times Square. I think perhaps even looking at, say, what happened in Los Angeles around the Staples Center, and kind of bringing in that kind of idea of an urban entertainment district.
So if you're the person planning this entertainment district, what are some tangible things that you would put there?
Well, I think that it's really going in and looking at the best of urban design to really bring in, indeed, as I think this has talked about in terms of pedestrian friendliness, but then also, I think, really working with the storefronts, ensuring that there won't be these block-long walls or almost block-long walls. But I think that really, I think there's going to be really this balance in terms of really the balance between the right to party versus the need for sleep. As I think what's interesting is that there's almost 8,000 people living around this area.
Yeah, because I don't think anyone wants to stay in a hotel there if they don't have to, given all of the noise. You know, it seems like there's constant talk about revitalizing Granville Street. How confident can we actually be that this time will be different?
Well, it's one of those ongoing challenges, as we know that this is really, I think, the second major initiative to kind of try to revitalize the Granville Strip. I think that earlier this morning, I think on the news, they had Councillor Fried really actually talk about how it's not only this 4-block area of Granville Strip, but of the Granville Street, but then really how it's almost a water-to-water approach that is going to be needed, just given the kind of changes and the kind of urban, I think, growth that has occurred in the area.
If you want to hear more of that interview with Councillor Fry and the early edition Stephen Quinn, you can go to our website and check it out there. Andy Yan is the director of SFU's City Program. Thank you, Andy.
My pleasure.
Well, because sometimes once is not enough. Star quarterback Tom Brady announces he's retiring from the NFL for a second time. Those details and more still to come.
ladies and gentlemen, I'm Patrick Watson, and from Dinah and Laurier and me, welcome to 7 Days, our 41st edition. And this is our first story.
When the National Hockey League decided to approve 6 new hockey cities, doubling the membership, the people in Vancouver thought, boy, this is it. But did it work out that way? This week, the powerful NHL gave franchises instead to 6 cities in the United States. Well, the players will be Canadians anyhow. Jack Webster stands on the wind-whipped corner in Vancouver to see the fans are...
Vancouver being refused an NHL franchise.
I think it's just terrible.
Who do you blame it on, the Norris gang?
Well, certainly. Certainly. The big shots in the East are telling us what we're going to get and what we're not going to get.
We're not going to get the NHL franchise. What do you think of it?
Well, I think it's too bad that we don't get it, because after all, it's a Canadian game, and it started here and originated here.
Oh, I'm a visitor, but I think it's a shame. I really do.
Where are you from?
I'm from Los Angeles.
But you got a franchise.
I know we do. We're very delighted with it.
Can we have your franchise?
No.
I think it's TV. I think it's big money. It's got nothing to do with us being Canadian, unfortunately.
I think it's damn disgusting.
What went wrong? Who did it to us?
Well, I think Stafford Smythe was very disgusted primarily because Vancouver voted him down at the time when he came here to try and buy Vancouver. And I feel that doubtlessly that he, well...
He cut our throats.
Cut our throats.
He denies this, of course.
Naturally.
I think we should have it here. I think it's wonderful.
But, ma'am, they've already turned us down. Where have you been?
Well, we better smarten up and get them back.
But we've lost it. There's no hope now.
Yes, there is. Never give up hope, boy.
Police in the Toronto area are searching for 2 suspects after a Hollywood-style break-in at a shopping mall. York Region Police released this video of a black sedan driving through the parking lot of the Vaughan Mills Mall early this morning and then crashing through an entrance. The car drove around the mall for a while before the suspects jumped out and broke into an electronics store and took several items. The car then drove away. Police are on the hunt, and no surprise, they say the car probably has damage to the front end. It also has Quebec license plates. Well, a funeral for Tyree Nichols took place today in Memphis, Tennessee. The 29-year-old died after a brutal beating by 5 police officers in a violent arrest captured on security and police body cameras. As Chris Reyes tells us, the officers are now facing murder charges.
At his funeral service at a church in Memphis, Tennessee, Tyree Nichols' casket was showered with song and scripture.
We have come into this place locked in solidarity across the nation and world to celebrate the life of Tyree Nichols, a good person, a beautiful soul.
Mr. and Mrs. Wells, he is your son. Now he is our son. And he is always God's son.
Thousands attended the service. Sitting in the front row, Nichols' family, his sister shared words of heartbreak.
I screamed at God, asking how could he let this happen?
Also at the service, the family of George Floyd, Eric Garner and Breonna Taylor, Black Americans who were killed by police. Vice President Kamala Harris sat beside Nichols' parents.
Mrs. Wells, Mr. Wells, you have been extraordinary in terms of your strength, your courage, and your grace.
Veteran civil rights activist Reverend Al Sharpton delivered the eulogy and very quickly into his speech spoke directly to the 5 officers who have been criminally charged with Nichols' death.
In the city that Dr. King lost his life, not far away from that balcony, you beat a brother to death.
This celebration of Nichols' life comes just days after Memphis police released a series of videos showing police brutally beating Nichols on January 5. He was pulled over and immediately shoved to the ground. He was tased and beaten by a baton. He died in hospital 3 days later. At the service, a call to action from Vice President Harris.
We demand that Congress pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Joe Biden will sign it.
The legislation includes sweeping reforms to address excessive use of force, racial profiling, and police misconduct. The service was filled with calls for justice, but also stories celebrating Nichols' life, his love for photography, skateboarding, sunsets. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
Moving on now, one of the greatest football players in the history of the game is calling it a career again. Tom Brady shared his decision with fans today on social media, ending speculation about a possible return. As Cam McIntosh reports, this marks the end of an historic career that will be difficult to match.
There was a report that 3 teams will come calling for his services next year.
Going out with a playoff loss in what would be his final game just a couple weeks ago, Tom Brady was still leaving the door open.
I'll get to the point right away. I'm retiring for good.
Now, after 23 seasons, 7 Super Bowls, his second retirement, the first lasted just a few weeks. This, he says, is different.
You only get one super emotional retirement essay, and I used mine up last year.
Brady, 45, played 20 seasons in New England, winning 6 Super Bowls there.
You are seeing one of the greats leave.
Steve Buckley covered Brady's career, ups, downs, and scandals, including 2014's Deflategate, where Brady was accused of deflating footballs for better grip. Fans picked sides.
Whether you like Brady, and there are many people who do, or whether you don't like him, and there are lots who don't like him, you cannot be happy or snarky or smirky when one of the all-time greats exits the stage.
The stats say many overshadow the criticism. 35 NFL records, including more Super Bowls than any other player.
You looked at Tom Brady in his 20s, look at Tom Brady in his 30s, or Tom Brady in his 40s. Each one of those careers alone are Hall of Fame worthy.
In 2020, Brady won his 7th Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Interestingly, he almost passed it all up for baseball. In 1995, he was drafted by the Montreal Expos. A college scholarship drew him to football.
Thank you guys for allowing me to live my absolute dream. I wouldn't change a thing. Love you all.
To his fans, he's the greatest ever. To his critics, a brash rule bender. Either way, no one has ever won as much, playing for so long. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
It's a tough subject to broach. When is it a good time for drivers with dementia to hand over the keys? But there are now new tools for family and friends to start that discussion. Those details are coming up.
My journey to playing ice hockey started when I joined college. I rollerbladed first, then I played inline hockey. Then one day a few of my friends invited me to go play ice hockey, and that was the beginning of this very beautiful journey.
They're fast, right? So training at elevation here in Nairobi really goes to show because their lungs and their legs are constant. We really had to game plan to put as many goals and as much offense in the first half of the game because in the second half, we're tired, but they're still going.
When I coach here, I realize the kids pick it up faster. They're a little bit hungrier. They want to succeed. They want to try this new sport. And, you know, if we have 40 or 50 people playing ice hockey, they're one of 40 or 50 people in a country of 40 plus million. So it's very special. They're very unique.
Driving with dementia is a delicate subject that most drivers don't want to grapple with. But a new Canadian initiative is working on convincing them when it's time to pull over for good. Here's Christine Birak now on how you might reach someone you're worried about.
Driving is one of the most mentally complex things we regularly do. It takes focus, split-second decision-making, and memory. As we age, those skills tend to decline. For people with dementia, including Alzheimer's, driving becomes much more dangerous with time. Researchers project nearly 1 million Canadians will be living with dementia by 2030. The hard part is knowing when someone should stop driving and how to tell them.
It results in arguments between families, arguments between patients and their physicians. No one wants to speak about it.
Dr. Gary Nagley is the chief of staff at Baycrest, a centre for geriatric care in Toronto. He often sees patients with severe dementia. If they're still driving, he suspends their license on the spot.
I've been fired more than once by patients. They get very angry because they don't really understand what's happening. And that's because we've all avoided talking about it until it's gotten too late.
Too late to make them part of the decision-making process. For most people, driving isn't just about getting from point A to point B. It's often intertwined with our sense of independence, freedom, and competence.
Many people view this as my life is going to stop as I know it the minute that my license gets suspended. And we have to give them the confidence that that's not the case.
Family members of people
To do that, he joined forces with Dr. Mark Rappaport.
We wanted to help allow people to plan in advance.
Dr. Rappaport is the acting head of geriatric psychiatry at Toronto Sunnybrook Hospital. With the help of a team, he and Dr. Nagley recently launched drivinganddementia.ca.
The website is set up with 3 portals.
One speaks directly to people with dementia. Another is for family and friends. There's also a portal for healthcare providers. Each offers evidence-based strategies for when, why, and how to help, including videos.
You have to give me your keys.
So far, most visitors to the website have been family members looking for advice on starting the conversation about driving and warning signs that it may be time to stop.
Look for red flags. Look for difficulty making turns, difficulty changing lanes, difficulty maintaining speed.
I learned to drive this old Ford at age 12, and I loved it.
Remember, we used to leave on a Friday.
As a young man, Ron Posno also learned to fly. An incident cost him his vision in one eye 50 years ago, but he says his brain was always wired for highly technical tasks. Then, in his mid-70s, things started changing.
Something was affecting how I was processing information, and particularly how I could remember how to do this or that or whatever.
He was diagnosed with dementia in 2016.
We couldn't live with ourselves if kids got hurt.
Now 83, he recently gave up his license after watching a video on the dementia and driving site and a scary incident outside his building.
I turned my head back to look at where I was supposed to go, and 2 little kids, about 10, 12 years old, rushed by the front of the car on their bicycles. They were just suddenly there. Well, that terrified me, because if I had started, I would have run into it, no question.
But not everyone with dementia willingly hands over their keys, even after a doctor tells them to. Instead, some patients head to an assessment center.
Our goal, and we tell them right from the get-go, that we're on their side. We want them to do as well as they can.
Nell Marie Hyde is an occupational therapist. For about $500, patients can privately retest their driving skills.
What did you see inside the white box? They would say it was a car, so they would touch car.
Cognitive tests check attention, memory, and speed of decision making. And there's a road test.
At the first street up ahead, we're going to make another right turn.
Ultimately, coming up with a new transportation plan for getting around is key.
There's life after driving, and that we can help support the transition such that it's not as awful as they perceive it to be.
Since Posno stopped driving, friends and neighbors have stepped up, along with his wife, Sandy.
It does change your life, but we can do it, and there's all kinds of resources.
While he misses sitting behind the wheel, Posno says he has no regrets.
I couldn't stand the idea of me hurting somebody with my driving.
Meteorologist China Wagstaff is away today. Kuljeet, no more snow for us here in the Lower Mainland, but you've got some warnings for other parts of the province.
Oh, yes, and lots of snow coming for other parts of the province. We have a winter storm warning in effect for Prince George. They're going to see up to 40 centimeters of snow starting tonight into tomorrow morning. A snowfall warning just north of there for Terrace as well as a wind warning for most of the coast. For us, that means we need to start looking at the avalanche warning after we see that amount of snow coming. Considerable to high in the Prince George area where most of that snowfall is going to be, and still considerable just north of that. So keeping an eye on that as well. Tomorrow's forecast, as I mentioned, snow and -3 for Prince George. Lots of wind and rain along Port Hardy as well as Prince Rupert. Light showers there, and rain up towards Dees Lake mixed with snow and -13 tomorrow. So quite cold winter temperatures for us. We just bounced back to seasonal temperatures after some cold, dry weather and some snow. Humidity is up as well, up to 78%, and we're starting to feel that outside. The humidity obviously brings more rain, which starts on Friday, up to 30 millimeters of rain. It's going to be late on and off until then. More rain for the weekend and into next week. We're not going to see sunshine till towards the end of next week and leading into Valentine's Day. Anita?
That's good. That's what people want for Valentine's Day, right?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Kuljeet.
You're welcome.
Some students in Greater Victoria got a special treat, a story time to kick off Black History Month. But it didn't stop there. Coming up, we'll share what the students got to take back to their classroom.
Well, it's the start of Winterlicious today. There's over 200 restaurants who are participating this year. We've been invited to Minette here on College Street to see what they've got cooking up. So what are you making for us today?
Lasuni cauliflower. This is basically chili cauliflower. So I'm putting the oil.
Chef Prasad is making one of his favorite dishes, which happens to be on the Minette Indian and Hakka Bar's Winterlicious menu. The city-run food festival is designed for people to explore the culinary scene around Toronto. Restaurants offer a 3-course prix-fixe lunch and dinner menu at a decent price. The event has brought in lots of customers to Minette in the past. The co-owner says it was an easy decision to sign up again.
So after the successful Summerlicious, we are back into Winterlicious. We already have lots of reservations right now, and I say that we have more than 20 reservations for this evening.
Winterlicious is in its 19th year. We're very excited to have it back.
The city says it's expanded the criteria this year from 3 price point categories to 6, allowing more restaurants to participate after a challenging few years for the industry during the pandemic.
We have some old restaurants returning, but we also have a lot of new restaurants coming.
The festival ends on the 10th. The city and restaurants are encouraging people to make a reservation ahead of time.
This is the bread garlic naan and the plain naan, or this is the basmati rice, that one, yeah.
Looks great.
Yeah.
Meg Roberts, CBC News, Toronto.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
On March 2nd, join CBC Vancouver's Michelle Elliott and a panel of top UBC experts at the UBC Med Talks, a hybrid event on the topic of healthy aging. Register at alumni.ubc.ca and never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter at cbc.ca/Vancouver inbox and keep connected with us.
We're sharing really important information with the public, and I feel like this is exactly what our job is, especially as the public broadcaster, especially in morning radio. That's incredibly important.
Some Greater Victoria classrooms got a new batch of books today. Books by Black authors featuring Black characters. It's part of a Black History Month initiative by the Isamba Centre, which promotes African culture in the Capital Region. They're lending boxes of books to elementary teachers along with special badges, and one of the authors held a special story time at the box pickup today.
Beautiful Princess Jamila, with her skin glowing soft and sunny, even tendrils of darkened curls and flowing eyes like honey.
Let's do something for Black History Month so we can choose enough book for school to have it, and then they're gonna keep the box for a month, a week, and kids can read, and then just gonna help. So we also wanna break some stereotype because if you have like a school, I got one, like they just have one black kids there. We don't want these black kids to grow up in this school like being like the black kids, you know. So it's like if they have an opportunity to have like at least book around, and then these young kids at the young age, they can just start like dealing with all the culture, learning about others and grow up like that. This is where we think that maybe gonna make a difference when they grow up.
So this book was, I was motivated to write this book because of my daughter, where my daughter would have a book with a main character that looks like her, so that she can grow up to have that image, that portrayal, and that representation. So our children can see that and feel that, hey, you know, we are black, we are proud, we're unique, we're beautiful, and we're special. Through a light pour of mist, she found Small Realm Fairy.
We came to pick up the books today, the book program, in support of Black History Month. The reason why we we wanted to bring the books into the class is just to have that better representation.
Full, they sing.
Yeah, it is so great to see that representation in our schools. That is it for CBC Vancouver News tonight. Thanks for being with us. I'm on assignment tomorrow, so Dan Burrett will be here in the chair. Hope you have a wonderful evening.